only going to give you excerpts of this because it's a little long. And in the beginning, I talk about how corporations got the way they have, got into power and whatnot. And that's a story I think that most of you know. My brothers and sisters, our problems are not due to incompetence or inexperience or a government that's too big or too small. We have these problems because those in government no longer serve us. They serve their corporate masters and benefactors, and they have deliberately chosen policies which harm our nation and our people. Those of us who dedicate our lives to peace, economic justice, and environmental preservation can make little progress in our struggles so long as ultimate power is in the hands of those who profit from war, poverty, and pollution. But here comes the good news. Tonight, that power has come to an end. I didn't get here tonight by taking corporate millions. I didn't sell myself to the oil companies, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies. To be quite honest, I'm not sure how I got here. But here I am, and as long as I am President of the United States, this government will serve the needs of the people, not the greeds of the wealthy elite. Come on, some of you must agree with that. You gotta clap and cheer like crazy when you hear something you like, and sit on your hands when you don't. That makes the people watching on television know what it is they're supposed to believe. That's the American way. That's the way Washington does it, right? Okay. Excuse me, I'm coming down with a cold, and I'm going to get through this. Turning things around won't be easy. What the Constitution empowers me to change, I shall, and I'll do it fast. But for much of what needs doing, I'll need the cooperation of you in Congress, and I ask for it tonight. You see, this Constitution does not make me the decider. Oh. Only the proposer and the implementer, you, the people's representatives in Congress, are the deciders. I am therefore vacating all the over 1,100 signing statements imposed by George H. Bush. I'm revoking Presidential Directives 20 and 51, which give me dictatorial powers. I ask for the repeal of the misnamed Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, and all the martial law and special and dictatorial powers passed in the last 10 years. This is not a monarchy, and I have no interest in being a dictator. Oh, I'll be called one because of the sweeping changes I am instituting. After all, you know, returning to the Constitution is not just change, it's a revolution. Now, restoring the Constitution means ending the imperial presidency and returning power to the people's representatives. But I warn you, members of Congress, if you continue to violate your constitutional responsibility to serve your constituents and instead serve only yourselves and the big money interests you're indebted to, I will go over your heads to the American people and ask them to retire all of you, regardless of party. Now, in order to restore some semblance of our republic, we must give the people real choices, not false ones. And we must have an informed electorate, not a brainwashed electorate. the two requirements for even a smidgen of democracy. And so we need electoral reform and we need media reform. We need them both. Now, first, electoral reform. The constitutional principle of one person, one vote means that any method of voting which does not produce a paper ballot that can be counted, recounted, and audited as necessary is unconstitutional. I ask Congress and the states to return to paper ballots, institute full public financing of elections, proportional representation, preference voting, sometimes called instant runoff voting, abolition of burdensome petition requirements on independents and third parties, and so working people can actually vote, making Election Day a federal holiday.
Yes.
Now, all this will be coordinated by my chairman of the Federal Election Commission, Bev Harris. Now, most of these changes, many of them at least, are designed to empower third parties. You see, there is nothing democratic about a two-party system when both parties are owned at the highest level by the same powerful interests. I also asked Congress to quickly pass a constitutional amendment restoring the original meaning of this document and undoing decades of mistakes on the Supreme Court. The amendment says, and I quote, "Corporations and other fictitious entities are not persons under this Constitution and shall have none of the rights and privileges thereof," unquote. And now, media reform. I am ordering the Federal Communications Commission, headed by Bill Moyers, to immediately reinstate the ban on ownership of multiple media outlets. It's time for a return to family-owned newspapers and radio and television stations. And the monopoly media conglomerates are going to have to sell off their assets. Sorry, Mr. Murdoch. You see, the key to ending fascism, which is the marriage of corporations and government, that's the definition of Benito Mussolini, and he should know. The key to ending fascism is to separate big money and political power. And we're taking immediate steps to do just that. Now, I have asked the Justice Department to indict members of the Bush administration, including the former president and vice president, as war criminals. Yeah. They exploited the 9/11 tragedy to deceive this nation into unnecessary and illegal wars of aggression against Afghanistan and Iraq. They abused their power, violated the Constitution, and their oath of office. The evidence of their guilt is absolutely overwhelming. Now, when I was sworn in a few minutes ago, I promised to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that includes a renegade president and vice president. If I or any member of my administration gives the kind of illegal orders that we've seen in the last 10 years, I expect the military to refuse those orders and to take action against us. Your duty to the Constitution far outweighs any loyalty to any individual. Those of you in the military and law enforcement have taken the same kind of oath that I took. You swore to protect the Constitution, not to follow orders. And you must never follow orders to participate in a war of aggression. And you must never follow orders to disarm, arrest, or incarcerate your fellow American citizens for exercising